Hello, my name is Andrea Morse. I'm the principal conservator of the Sculpture Conservation Studio in Los Angeles. Today, my presentation will introduce you to the styles, some history, and fountain problems that one can encounter when living in Southern California. I am dividing my presentation into three sections. 1. Historic fountains and their problems. 2. Architectural fountains, or fountains used as part of the historic architecture of a building or site. And 3. Fountains that are used to enhance an area that the public uses or frequents. The oldest fountain Sculpture Conservation Studio has worked on is at La Paricia Mission in Lompoc, near Solvay, California. This mission dates to 1787. This mission has been fully restored to its original layout and use, having animals, a functional chapel, and still celebrating holidays and traditions of the Chumash Indian. Many school children visit here when studying missions. The lavanderia is a functioning fountain basin where the Indian women living on the mission would come and wash their clothes. It is still used for ceremonies twice a year. At the end of the lavanderia was a grotesque space where the water from underground pipes, which led to a nearby stream, would come out of the mouth of the face and fill the basin. The fountainheads were made of sandstone, and through the years the faces had deteriorated to the extent that one could no longer make out any of their features. Sculpture Conservation Studio removed each fountainhead, brought it back to their studio, and made a clay mold around the existing head, but gave it features as it originally appeared. A mold was made from the clay, and a cast was created using cathedral stone Jan M70 with matching pigments. The pipes that came out of the mouth were checked for water flow. The water flowed well in one, but the other one only dripped water, unless the first one was capped, as the earlier slide showed being capped. After close examination, it was found that someone, probably a school child, pushed a marble up into the PVC pipe, which was stopping the flow of water. After cutting and replacing the pipe, the water flowed again into the lavanderia. At Grant Elementary School in Riverside, California, there is a cast iron fountain made in 1896 for this Mission Revival style school. There was an earthquake in 1933 and the school was demolished, but the fountain still remains as a reminder of the first school on this front lawn. In 1971, the fountain was taken apart and was fully cleaned of all corrosion. By 2009, the fountain barely functioned and had koi fish swimming in the pond. The fountain was taken apart and the pieces were cleaned of corrosion, algae, and minerals. The section that covered the motor was recast and the fountain was painted in its original color white and installed back in the pond without the koi. The Spirit of the Ocean is a sandstone carving by Ettore Cadorin and a fountain in front of the old Santa Barbara courthouse. It dates back to 1927 and was carved out of stone from a local quarry. The water comes out of the dolphin's mouth, which always caused mineral deposits forming under the spout and along the rim of the sculpture. It was discovered that the sandstone was carved along the grain and therefore was slowly deteriorating. Around 1980, a conservator, not me, decided to preserve the sculpture by covering the top half of the figures with cement, which then caused the sandstone to crumble behind the cement. The lower half continued to deteriorate and was conserved once a year. In 2010, a person dropped some books from the courthouse bell tower and broke the decorative crown on a dolphin, which you could see the piece of the crown sitting on top of the dolphin's head. Finally, the city decided to recarve the entire sculpture using lasers and sandstone from a local quarry in 2011. The deterioration of the sandstone had extended to the back wall, and the side sandstone blocks and spiky plants were also used to keep children away from climbing on it. Tiles, especially colorful ones, are very prevalent in California fountains. Usually they are very easy to maintain. This is a story of a water damaging the artistic works of a fountain. This fountain was designed by Ralph Carlin Fellowing, and the sculpture was by Cage. The fountain is located at the southwest end of Beverly Hills and was erected in 1931. It was named the electric fountain because of its wonder lights and water timed to change in 8-minute sequences. It depicts the rich history of California with the various scenes from early settlers to more modern times around the basin, and a Tonga Cabriolino Indian at the top, whose native tribe lived on this land before it was developed by the Spanish in 1781. The water flows out of his hands into the pool. Handmade tiles around the pool have deteriorated through the years because of the chlorinated spray-off of the water over the tiles. Sculpture Conservation Studio had to conserve the hand of the Indian because the flow of the water had caused it to crumble. It was cleaned, the basin was cleaned too of all mineral deposits and conserved, and tiles were either remade or conserved around it. The Dauphine fountain is a typical Spanish-style park fountain with colorful tiles, Sotillo pavers, and a decorative color central element. This fountain is at the other end of Beverly Hills. Because it is a popular place for people to come, the glazed tiles and pavers became damaged. The central core of the fountain was either covered in mineral deposits from the water or cracked and damaged by corroded rebar. The base was repaired and cleaned mechanically of all minerals, and the tiles were conserved with Edison products. Architectural fountains. This is a historic 1930s tile fountain from the Pantages Theater in Hollywood. This is one of the oldest and most historic theaters in Hollywood. When Netherlander brought the play Lion King to this theater, much conservation restoration work was performed. The original drinking fountain had a backsplash of historic tiles with a faux painted drinking basin with inlaid tiles. The hard water in the drinking fountain had created a horrible white haze on the tiles around the basin and in the black sink. Previous restoration also included old, poorly matched tiles. The faux painting was chipped with many losses of paint. The entire fountain was conserved, tiles were replaced, and then moved to another area to make room for a larger ladies' bathroom, which is always useful in the theater. Fountains from the Alcazar Gardens in Balboa Park, San Diego, are prevalent. This garden is one of many of the gardens in Balboa Park. The garden was patterned after the gardens of Alcazar Castle in Seville, Spain. It replicates a 1935 design, with tiled star-shaped fountains, boxwood hedges, and tiled benches. Because of the low walls on the fountain, kids have found them perfect for skateboarding on and chipping and breaking all of the other tiles. And also tiles at the bottom of the benches had been cracked and broken from previous use. All tiles were conserved by Sculpture Conservation Studio with Colored Match Edison. The Mission Inn is a quirky hotel in Riverside, California. The owner, Frank Miller, would love to go around the world in the early 1900s and buy all sorts of architectural elements to decorate the patios, facades, and even rooms of his hotel. In this patio was placed a bronze putti fountain. Neglect caused thick mineral deposits on both the interior and exterior of the bowl. Mineral deposits on the decorated cast concrete base, and blue-green corrosion all over the putti. The bowl and base were mechanically conserved with scalpels and wooden sticks. The putti was conserved, corrosion was reduced to a minimum, and then hot waxed. While working on the base, it was discovered that the floor of the pool was originally a green concrete. This, like the hotel, is a constant ongoing project. Decorative fountains in California enhance apartment complexes, malls, and public venues such as airports, zoos, and universities. This is a low-income sitting housing project in the city of Pasadena. and it had a decorative fountain in the courtyard that livened up a very dull cement space. The fountain is in the form of a colorful tile relief wall and pool. The water came from the top of the wall, down the wall, and into the pool. It was a beautiful decorative piece until large pieces of the ceramic tile started falling off the wall after about a year. Sculpture Conservation Studio was hired to find out why the tiles were separating off the wall, who was responsible, and we were to become the contact with the artist to decide what tiles should be remade and what tiles could be conserved. After much research, it was discovered that the liner was not properly installed by the pool company, causing the tile adhesive to be constantly wet and deteriorate. Airports are creating more art spaces in their public areas these days. The San Diego airport has a large fountain inside Terminal 2 that appears like rows of seaweed coming out of a pond with jet sprays and sea animals swimming around them. The sculpture, especially the delicate leaves on the kelp strands, accumulated large amount of dust and dirt. The bronze animal and fish had blue-green corrosion. The base of these strands were full of thick white minerals. Sculpture Conservation Studio scaffolded the entire sculpture to clean and wax all of the leaves and individual animals and fish. The base of the seaweed was mechanically conserved of all minerals. Sometimes there are not happy endings to fountains. This is an outdoor mall in downtown Fresno, California, which was once a bustling mall. As the city expanded, people went to malls outside of the downtown area to shop. The city tried to revitalize the mall by adding a stream running through the center section with architectural designs around the stream. 12 large pieces of outdoor art and fountains were placed around the mall, but the artwork was neglected and soon became unsightly. Sculpture Conservation Studio was hired to conserve the sculpture. The bronze statues were fairly normal conservation maintenance, but the fountains and art in the fountains were a disaster. Here's a crane in the middle of a fountain that was totally covered with corrosion, but also totally covered with mineral deposits from the jet sprays. A Claire Falkenstein sculpture also suffered heavy corrosion and minerals, which took off the patina when mechanically conserved. The George Sudicella fountain took on a whole new rainbow of colors from the thick iridescent minerals over the Japanese ink patina. Unfortunately, the city did not want to pay for the conservation restoration of the fountains, so this work was never completed. My last example is a typical outdoor mall in sunny Santa Monica. These topiary fountains are not only unusual, but entertaining for the children. But even topiaries that have bronze heads and spikes need to be maintained, or they become covered with blue-green corrosion from the saline environment. Although California has good weather year-round, we still have our share of problems when maintaining fountains of all shapes and sizes. Thank you.